first one is Francis here. And I want you to be very clear. Here's what Francis says. So hopefully you can see this. Okay, here's Francis. This is the 68th address to the National Liturgical Week in Italy. We can affirm with certainty and with magisterial authority the liturgical reform is irreversible. Can you hear me? Do you hear that? I'm going to put it in the chat for you so you can read it for yourself. We affirm with certainty and with magisterial authority the liturgical reform, Vatican II, is irreversible. Do you hear me? Can you be honest? What does it say? Okay, it says that. Now let's look at, oh man, I hate it when it does this. This is John the 23rd. I'm not going to read this whole thing. You're going to have to go to Google Translate. And you're going to have to put it in there. I'm going to give you the quote, or the link. Okay, and you go to Google Translate. It's not that long. Here it comes. This is the address at the opening of Vatican II. And when you read this, when you put it in Google Translate, you can make it out fine. It's not disputable what he means. He's very clear that this is an ecumenical council. It is called with the full authority, full power, full apostolic universal sense, right? So there's the opening of the council, John the 23rd, his speech, telling you it's dogmatic. There's Francis telling you it's dogmatic. Now, what about Paul VI? Oh, you see, he said that it's pastoral. So what? There's nothing in Paul VI calling it pastoral that somehow means that it's not protected by the charism or not dogmatic. He says it defined no new dogmas. So what? That's not the criteria for what makes something dogma in Roman Catholicism. So there in the link, you'll see the speech of Paul VI, 1976, restating and explaining his comment of it being a pastoral council, and laughing and making fun of the people who act like it means that you don't have to accept it. I mean, come on, guys. So this alone, right? Here's 3 clear testaments from the popes that you have to accept Vatican II. And it's thus a trad myth that you don't have to accept it. Into the Spirit of God by whom it is guided, and at least erroneous. Therefore, it is a Jansenist proposition to say that the Roman See can establish bad rites or disciplines. So as you can see, it doesn't really matter what one thinks of Vatican II as an individual Catholic or its rites in terms of its Novus Ordo promulgation, right? Novus Ordo Missae, etc. Because you can have all the opinions you want. You cannot say that the Roman See can establish bad disciplines for the entire church. And yes, the new sacraments are for the entire church, obviously. So really this is a no-brainer, and I bring it up because it will go towards refuting not just Taylor, but the entire SSPX type of position. This idea that Vatican II is not infallible and it's really up to the whims of whatever judgment any individual Roman Catholic makes, that he doesn't really have to accept it. right? Unless he, I guess, chooses to. Right? I mean, what does it mean to have an optional pastoral ecumenical council? So it's optional? That's funny, because every FSSP person who's ever been reconciled from the SSPX to Rome, FSSP, has been made to accept Vatican II. Why would that occur? Why would that happen if it was an optional council? This is a trad myth. It's a trad lie, as we'll see here in a moment, that Vatican II is optional. And it doesn't matter how many times the Vatican restates that it's not optional. They will continue on saying that, well, I don't have to accept when the Pope says it's not optional because he didn't say it dogmatically. This is ludicrous. Right? This is just absurd levels of coping mechanisms, right? Welcome, everybody. We have almost 400. So there's the super chat. If you want to leave a super chat, feel free to support the stream by the super chats. But that's just one example. Now, we're not going to just stop there. We're going to look at a couple more places in Denzinger, because one of the key points that is crucial to grasping the mistake of the trads is the question of the magisterium and the ordinary and universal magisterium. So, being that I do know Denzinger like the back of my hand, I would like to direct you to another section in Denzinger. And of course, this is related to Vatican I. So let's scroll down here to 1683. All right. Now, so at the time of Vatican I, there were some interesting questions raised along the same lines relating to not just bad disciplines, but other aspects of Roman Catholic dogma, like the Roman congregations, or the idea of jurisdiction, or the idea of the Holy Office condemning people, right? So, in other words, there were arguments being made like, well, I don't really have to agree to the condemnation of a heretic from the Holy See or from the Holy Office, because that's just an exercise of discipline. So therefore, conceivably, could discipline be rejected? Well, we look at 1683, and it reads, "We persuade ourselves," in the middle there, "we persuade ourselves also that they did not wish to declare that perfect adhesion to revealed truths, which they recognize as absolutely necessary to attain true progress in the sciences and to refute errors, could be obtained if faith and obedience were given only to the dogmas expressly defined." This is the argument that I only have to adhere to something expressly defined. "For even if it were a matter concerning that subjection which is to be manifested by an act of divine faith, it would not have to be limited to those matters that have been defined by express decrees of the councils." Or of the Roman Pontiff and his see, it would have to be extended to the matters handed down as divinely revealed by the ordinary teaching power of the church, spread throughout the world. And he says that this is false, right? You don't have to only adhere to dogmas, you have to adhere to all of the decisions and decrees. And we know this because the next point, 1698, continues this argument, because it explicitly states in 1698, "Judgment and decrees cannot be doubted, even when they are merely juridical." So the judgments and decrees of the Roman See cannot be doubted, even if it's something just juridical. There's also 1792. "The object of faith, by divine and Catholic faith, all those things that must be believed, which are contained in the written word of God and tradition, and those things which are proposed by the Church, either by solemn magisterium or by her universal ordinary teaching power, are to be believed as divinely revealed." So you see that you cannot reject the universal ordinary magisterium under the guise of saying that I will only follow the dogmas expressly defined by extraordinary magisterium. It's explicitly rejected there. Both attempts, and by the way, there are more if these are not good enough for you, but hopefully these should be good enough to really kind of make the point, right?